This video is sponsored by Kawi Performance. Visit them online at kawiperformance.com. Hey guys, JD here with the Kawasaki Ultra 310 LXS. So today I'll be featuring some awesome parts from my friends at Kawi Performance. Kawi Performance is my go-to for performance parts here in the United States, and they provided me with this OEM size Supercharger Pulley. And it is the same size as the stock steel pulley. Now what that means is that you don't need a tune, you don't need any other mods to your ski. You can literally just plug and play this stock size pulley. You could even use your stock tensioner assembly with your stock idler pulley. Kawi Performance was also generous enough to send me a full new set of stainless steel hardware to accompany my stock size pulley. Now what I have here is what I'm calling the Kawi Performance Saltwater Series Tensioner Package. Now I've jokingly emailed Steve at Kawi Performance and said, hey, you gotta sell this as a saltwater package. So that includes the Kawi Performance stainless steel idler pulley. This is a stock size pulley. It's a little bit larger than the stock one. I've then got the Kawi Performance automatic tensioner assembly. This has got dual stainless steel bearings in it. No bushing that has to be greased. All high quality stainless steel components. And then here I've got my OEM Kawasaki spring, but it's got the Kawi Performance upgraded spring bushing kit. Also in this process, I will be using the OEM Kawasaki spring holder tool. Now I have done some videos in the past without this tool, and I've showed you guys how to do that. So for this video, I will be using this tool. If you're interested in doing this procedure without the tool, I do have a couple other videos on YouTube showing you how to remove the tensioner and reinstall the belt without the tool. My note on that is that the tool does make it a lot easier to do. While we have this apart, you will have to change your main exhaust gasket. This gasket here is about $28. Okay, so the first step is we're going to get these hoses removed from our oil breather catch can. Then we've got this main one on the top here. Okay, so now we're going to pull these two 10mm bolts. We can get the catch can out of the way. Our next step is going to be, we got to remove this exhaust manifold here. You got to start with these two Allen bolts, pull those out, get this plate off, pull all these bolts off, disconnect this coupler right here, and then we're going to pull the exhaust out of the ski. All right, we're going to go and loosen these two Allen bolts right here. Now we've got these four 12mm bolts. So this is unbolted. So now we have to disconnect this sensor right here, this cooling line right here, and then we have to loosen the top hose clamp on that coupler right there. I'm gonna go ahead and cut off the zip tie. You don't want to pull it by the wire, always pull it by the clip. Using a 7mm socket, we're gonna loosen this coupler down there. Once that clamp's been loosened, then you're going to loosen this hose right here. Hose off. There's our old gasket. These are very sharp, so be careful not to cut yourself. So at this point, you're probably saying to yourself, oh look, the supercharger pulley's right there. I'm almost there, right? Wrong. Very wrong. So the next step is we're going to remove this duct right here. That's from the supercharger to the intercooler. Next, we're going to remove the relief valve right here, and we're going to remove the duct. We're not going to remove, we're going to loosen the duct between the intercooler and the throttle body. We're then going to loosen these two bolts on the bottom of the intercooler, and we're going to loosen this hose right here. So let's start with these ducts, and then we're going to get the intercooler out of the ski. Also, we're going to have to remove this whole tensioner assembly here. We'll do that in a moment as well. Using a 7mm socket, you're going to go ahead and loosen the hose clamps that hold this main duct here in place. Alright, and then this hose here is very supple. You can remove it usually fairly easily. And you're going to have some oil in that hose, some oily residue, especially if you fog that supercharger well, you should have an oily residue. Alright, so we've got the main supercharger to intercooler duct removed. We've got our exhaust pipe assembly removed. And the next thing we're going to do here is remove the supercharger belt tensioner, which is right here. That is going to be these 12mm bolts right here. The first thing you need to do is put our spring holder tool in place. If you don't have a spring holder tool, then you're just going to want to remove these two bolts holding the spring and the actual tensioner. If you do have the spring holder tool, we're going to put that on and then remove this whole sub bracket assembly as well. Using the tool is the easiest way to service the supercharger and belt driveline. All right, let's get the spring tool on there. The hole in the spring holder tool goes towards the top. So you're going to slip that on right like this. So using a breaker bar or a torque wrench and a 19mm socket, you're going to take the tension off your spring, and then you're going to place the spring holder tool in place like that. Release the tension slowly, and your tensioner is now ready to be removed from the ski. You're going to go ahead and do that with a 12mm socket. Make sure to remove this plate. It will fall out of the way. All right, so you can see everything's a little bit dirty here. I'm going to clean all this up. In the meantime, we're now going to remove these hoses here. I've already loosened this one. You're going to go ahead and pull your supercharger relief valve off. You're going to want to disconnect this little vacuum line as well. We're going to go ahead and we're going to loosen this duct right here from the intercooler to the throttle body. So you're also going to disconnect this lead for the camera. Then we have two 12mm bolts at the bottom there. We're going to remove those. That will allow us to get the intercooler out of the ski, and then we can disconnect the water box. We can move the water box out of the way, and then that will give us access to our pulley. And we have not loosened our engine mounts or moved our engine. All right. So our intercooler is unbolted, and we've loosened our duct here. So now we're just going to wiggle the intercooler back to get this duct between the throttle body and the intercooler disconnected. This is your temp sensor from the intercooler. We have to disconnect that. And then there's also a cooling hose there. So we have to, as we move the intercooler, you can see that formed hose back there. Remember to remove the corrugated hose running from the BOV to the airbox before you remove the intercooler. So let's take a look inside the intercooler. So you can see there, looks perfectly clean, no corrosion. So the intercooler has been removed from the ski. Our band has been taken off of our water box here. And now we've got these two hoses going to the other water box. This one here goes to the rear exit, and that one over there goes to the other water box. We're gonna have to loosen that hose clamp right there. That is also a 7mm socket. Then you're going to need two hands. You're going to reach in and you're going to remove that hose from the water box, and that's going to allow us to move this one out of the way. And now we have access to our supercharger pulley. Move the belt out of the way. And there is a look at the pulley. I think sliding the engine forward is easier than removing the intercooler and the water box, but you know, I promised you a video doing it both ways, so I'm gonna do it. You can see, if you have never seen in the hull here, I'll give you a look at everything. You can see that bilge pickup back there with the hose disconnected. I gotta reconnect that. Alrighty. Alright, so I've gotten everything cleaned up just a bit. I have a little more work to go. You can see there's some, but I've got everything a lot cleaner than it was. Alright, so now we're going to go get our band holder tool so we could hold this supercharger pulley. And then we're going to get our Allen and we're going to take this pulley off. So first we're going to get our band wrench in place like this. Then we're going to come in with a 5mm socket. We're going to go through, I'm just going to crack each of these loose. But you can see how easy that comes off when it's not seized on there. So we're going to clean this all up and we're going to get ready for our new pulley. The first thing I like to do is add some marine grease just to the base of the supercharger snout here, just to prevent it from corroding. Then we're going to put this in place. We're going to install these bolts, each with a little bit of red Loctite. This is your stock pulley, so I only put 50 hours on this pulley. I mean, look at this. This was 50 hours. I mean, this is just, looks like it came off the Titanic, this thing. To show you what I mean, let's take a look at the stock pulley. So you can see the ends of the pulley here, and then we'll compare that to the Kawi Performance one. Alright, so we've cleaned up the bilge a little bit. You can see the snout of the supercharger has all been cleaned. I talk about this a lot. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but corrosion block grease. I think this is the best on the market, so I like to share it with you guys. It's the only stuff I would use. So we're going to take a brush and we're going to go ahead and apply this to the snout there. Not too much, just to coat the surface. So our pulley is going to go on right like this. So Kawi Performance has provided us with a set of stainless steel Allens for that supercharger pulley. We're going to go and use some red Loctite on each of those before we install them. So the one thing I've noticed about Kawi Performance that does merit a call out is that they are very big on the stainless steel hardware. And I just love that, because riding in salt, stainless steel is the only thing that holds up. Not just with jet skis, with boats, you know, with anything that touches the salt water. If it's not stainless steel, it's going to last a few months of heavy use. And I do use this ski very heavily. I log 150 hours a year. So this is the hardware from Kawi Performance. Their hardware is the highest quality I've seen. I mean, it's the highest quality you could get. Marine grade, stainless steel. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and apply some red Loctite to each of these. And we're going to go ahead and tighten them all in place. Then we're going to get a band wrench and a torque wrench and tighten up our pulley. I pulled up my service manual here just to double check, and our pulley bolts are 106 inch-pounds. So you're going to get a band wrench over the pulley like this. You just want to make sure that these are all torqued properly. And I've done the others, I was just showing you for demonstration purposes. So we're going to remove our band wrench. So our water box is back in place. Now I had mentioned that you can't get a torque wrench in there if you leave the water box in place. So you could get it. Anyway, you got to take the water box out. It's real easy. This crossover here, make sure it's not kinked. I'm just going to tighten these hose clamps back up. Alright, so it's time to get the intercooler back in. Going to make sure my valve cover is covered so I don't scratch it. Now let's get the intercooler into the ski. Hope that's filming. I might have forgotten to press record. Alright, so we've got this hose right here tightened. Now what we're going to do is reinstall this line here to the BOV. Then we're going to go and we're going to slide the intercooler back in place, bolt it down, and get our band around the water box secured once again. We've got our cooling hose on the bottom here connected, and on the other side, don't forget we do have this air temperature sensor that has to be reconnected. Now another trick I want to show you is this is the duct between the intercooler and the throttle body that needs to go in place before you tighten the intercooler down. The same with the duct from the supercharger to the intercooler. Makes it a lot easier if you install these before you tighten this into place. Okay, so I've got my, now you see that arrow right there? That's the supercharger to intercooler duct. Those two hose clamps are a 7mm socket. Make sure to tighten those sufficiently. Then you've got another two 7mm clamps on the duct from the intercooler to the throttle body. Then you've got these clamps right here. This is the supercharger relief valve. Make sure that this is very tight. That's an 8mm socket. Don't use a flathead screwdriver. You won't be able to get it tight enough. We've tightened our cooling lines to the intercooler, and now all I've got to do is tighten the intercooler itself. That's two 12mm bolts. I've got my OEM Kawasaki gasket. We're going to put this in place, and we're going to slide the pipe into that coupler right there. There's my other hose clamp. And again, we're going to follow a very specific sequence to torque these bolts. I will show you that now. Try to do it exactly like that, or else you could warp the surfaces and then they won't mate properly and they will leak. Someone actually just asked me about this, and I'm not sure that it really matters, but you could see that there's a beveled side and a non-beveled side to this. This is a crush gasket, so it gets flattened anyway, but I like to set it just like that. And well, that'll align once we put our bolts in there. So the first thing we got to do here is tighten this 14mm bolt. This is bolt A, and that's going to get torqued to 33 foot-pounds. So we're going to set our wrench to 33 foot-pounds. Okay, 33 foot-pounds it is. And then these three bolts here, these get torqued to 26 foot-pounds. So we're going to set our wrench to 26 foot-pounds. Okay. Now the bolts do make a sound as they're being tightened, which kind of throws off your torque wrench. You hear the sound, so you just gotta finesse it and feel. There we go. Now we're gonna put our plate back in place, and you've got two 4mm Allens. So now our exhaust pipe is back in place. Now we have to tighten this down here, this hose clamp. We're going to tighten that up, and then we're going to reconnect this sensor right there. Then we're going to get our tensioner back in the ski, and then we'll be good to go. Alright, so here is my tensioner assembly. Now what I have here is what I'm calling the Kawi Performance Saltwater Series tensioner package. Now I've jokingly emailed Steve at Kawi Performance and said, hey, you gotta sell this as a saltwater package. So if you are interested in all these components together, I suggest you give him a call or email him, and he'll put a special package together for you. He doesn't have it on his website yet, but it's definitely something they can put together for you. So that includes the Kawi Performance stainless steel idler pulley. This is a stock size pulley. It's a little bit larger than the stock one, but it does accommodate a stock size supercharger pulley like the one we just installed. I've then got the Kawi Performance automatic tensioner assembly. This has got dual stainless steel bearings in it, no bushing that has to be greased, all high quality stainless steel components. And then here I've got my OEM Kawasaki spring, but it's got the Kawi Performance upgraded spring bushing kit. But this basically has marine alloy upgraded bushings with a special plastic polymer insert. And these are maintenance free. They don't seize up like the stock ones. They don't need to be removed or greased. All right, let's get our tensioner assembly back in place. So our belt is in place, and I just want to show you, you just set this tensioner right down on the belt. You don't have to mess with the belt. It's so much easier. Now there is a method. I have showed you guys how to remove the belt and all these components without the spring tool. But the spring tool makes it so easy to reassemble. Don't forget, we have this plate. This little plate goes in right here like that. To 26 foot-pounds. Okay. So as you can see, our tensioner assembly has been tightened in place, and now the last thing we have to do is remove the spring tool right there. So we're going to do that with a 19mm socket, and you can use a breaker bar, or you can use your torque wrench. Alright, so we're going to put some tension on our assembly, and we're going to remove our Kawasaki spring holder tool, slowly releasing that spring and releasing the tensioner onto the belt. And there you go. It's as easy as that. So now our drive line is ready to go. This hose right here is the flush port to the exhaust. So we got to reconnect all these hoses to the catch can here, bolt the catch can in place. All right, so I've got everything tightened, all the hose clamps, all the connections. I got these new neon green zip ties. Everything's squared away, torqued, tightened, catch cans in place, hoses hooked up. All the cooling lines are tightened. So we're just gonna start her up and make sure everything runs okay.
If you enjoyed this video, remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more Kawasaki content, only on JD's Waterworld.